I'd like to bring up our speaker. So Julie Nee is a author, speaker. She's a passionate teacher. She brings 25 years of leadership experience in business, sales, and marketing. She works with clients across multiple industries nationwide to drive positive change in their organizations. When we contacted John Gordon's company after I read the book, she is actually the vice president and partner of his that actually developed the teaching and the course and the material that we're going to be learning from her today. So I'm really excited that Julie came all the way from North Carolina to be with us today. And so I'd like to bring her up and turn it over to Julie Nee. Give her a warm hand.
Thank you, Brady.
Thanks so much.
Wow. Okay, I pretty much think Brady has covered it all because he gave you so many John Gordon quotes and so much on positivity. But I think he set the stage a little bit in the bio for how powerful this work is. And it's powerful to him. It's hopefully going to be powerful to you, and it's powerful to me. So the way I made the transition from a couple of decades in a corporate environment into speaking and training and doing workshops with John Gordon, it all started with a book. And for me, it started with John Gordon's book, The Energy Bus. And I had joined a new team and I was leading teams all over the US, and some of my guys were out west, and I went out to their meeting, and he gave me a copy of The Energy Bus, John Gordon's book, The Energy Bus. And he said, I really want you to read this book on your flight home. And I was like, okay. So I read the book, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. Like, this is how I want to run my team. This is how everyone should be running their team. And so I started putting the principles from The Energy Bus into practice with my team at Hershey. And what I saw was, not only was our team thriving when the business was good, because it's kind of easy to thrive when everything's going perfectly, right? But our team started to thrive when the chips were down and the business got hard. And instead of going down the drain and starting to finger point and all the things that we do when we start to feel the pressure, we actually were able to rise above. And so I started reaching out to John. I wrote him a letter and I told him the impact the Energy Bus made on me, and he wrote back. So I read another book, The Carpenter, wrote another letter, and he wrote back. And then I read The Seed, and I wrote another letter, and he wrote back. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I got to meet this guy. So I live in Charlotte, and I'm part of this Executive Women's Network in Charlotte. So I said, hey, I've got this great speaker. Let's hire him to come in and speak. And so he came to speak, and by then, I was like legit fangirling. Like not John Bon Jovi, John Gordon, right? Like embarrassingly so, right? So I introduced him, and I had about the same number of people actually in the room when I introduced John. And he got up on the stage and he goes, I think Julie's more passionate about my work than I am. And I was like, yes, I am, yes, I am. And so that whole year I was talking to my husband, 9 months, by the way, this was March of 2014. For 9 months, I said to my husband, the John Gordon thing, the John Gordon thing, the John Gordon thing, the John Gordon thing. In December, he said, what exactly is the John Gordon thing? Guys, you don't have to wait 9 months to ask your wife what she's talking about, right? So I said, I'm going to be working with him next year. And he said, does he know that? And I was like, excellent point, honey. So what do you think I did? I wrote him another letter. Top 5 reasons why we should work together in 2015. And a couple days later, he called. And he said, what do you want to do with this? And I was like, I want to speak about the Energy Bus. The world needs to hear this message. Honestly, as if he wasn't already delivering the message himself. But we talked about some things, and by the time we got off that phone call, he said, okay, you can go out and speak about the Energy Bus for free before you quit your day job, which was excellent, excellent advice. So for about 6 months, that's exactly what I did. I went out and I spoke to junior leagues and women's groups and Rotary clubs and really anyone who would listen to me speak about the Energy Bus. And then the time came to leave Hershey, and I did. And so since then, we're coming up on 8 years now, next month, and since then, I've been speaking, I've been building workshops, I've been building training, and my favorite training is the one that I co-created with John around this very product. And here's why this stuff is so powerful. You already saw a lot of the research. Brady shared a lot of the research that we use and share with our clients all the time. But it works. And what you're going to hear is going to apply to you personally in your life, with your family, with your kids, at work, really anywhere. So when you think about leadership, sometimes people think, well, do I have to have a team of direct reports in order to be a leader? No. Everyone is a leader. If you influence other people, you're a leader. So I guess that's everyone in this room, right? So what I thought I would do is start with a little bit of a warm-up, where this is going to be a little bit of an interactive keynote. So we're going to do a little warm-up. So what I want you to do right now is I'm going to give you about, this is going to be really quick, 2 minutes-ish, 2, maybe 3, to think about 3 positive words about you, and then I want you to turn to your partner and share them. They have to be positive. That's the only rule. The words have to be positive. Okay, you have 2 minutes. Go. Share it with a partner once you figure it out. No sharing here? That's a problem. Did you do yours? All right, do you have it? Have you shared it? Yes? Okay. Let me ask you a question. So let me tell you something. Last night I was at my hotel and I decided to have dinner at the bar. And so we were making some conversation, and one of the waiters at the end of the bar said something about the weather, and the other one was like, dude, you got to do better than that. Like, you got to figure out something else to talk about besides the weather. And so we started asking different kinds of questions. So I decided to test this out on the people at the restaurant last night. So I said, okay, let's do this fun thing. So I want you each to tell me 3 positive words about you. And interestingly, the bartender, she was like, I don't know. I don't have anything. I can't think of anything. And it was amazing how long it took her to think about a positive word about herself. So I just said, hey, in my observation, I would say friendly is probably one of them. And she's like, oh, yeah, I guess I'm pretty friendly. You know, and we just kept talking about it. But who thought this was hard to come up with 3 positive words? Yeah, there's a lot of people raising their hand. So anything about being positive and being a positive leader, it always starts with us. So if you couldn't come up with anything, I would challenge you to think about this a little bit further and really come up with those words, because we all have positive qualities. And I bet if you ask the people at your table or the people on your team, they could rattle off 3 positive words about you in about 5 seconds. So figure out what that is, and just remind yourself of that when you're having a tough day. So this is so perfect because Brady set up so well all the research about the power of positivity. And the language that we're starting to use inside our work is positivity is the competitive advantage. Not a competitive advantage, but really the competitive advantage that can make us stand out from our competition and from people, like individuals and groups, right? So I'm going to provide you with this resource. It's going to be a 2-sided resource at the end, and it has a lot of what Brady already shared and more, and some updated research as well. And then on the back side is going to be the costs of negativity, which we'll talk about as well. So just know that what we're talking about here is not fluffy stuff. This is just not rah-rah fluffy stuff. This is real. And I know for sure, and I loved the research about patients, specifically about in healthcare and about patient outcomes, because I've worked with a lot of hospitals, and I ask them, is this really true that optimistic patients heal faster from illness? They're like, oh, yeah. Like, would you guys say yes to that? Yeah, okay, that wasn't really resounding. But I see some nodding, and I saw some yeses. But as I've worked with people, they've said, oh my gosh, yes, it's so true. And I believe it to be true as well. So here's the thing about positivity. We're not positive because life is easy. We're positive because life can be hard. And also healthcare is hard. Like, I get it. I know healthcare can be hard. But that's why we have to build this into our mindset so we can overcome the hard things that come our way in life and at work. And so, whoops. So I want you to know this. What we're talking about here is real positivity. We're not talking about toxic positivity. Has anyone in the room heard of toxic positivity? Okay, I see some nodding. Yeah, a couple hands. I want you to know that what we're talking about here right now is not about toxic positivity, because if it were toxic, it wouldn't be positive. So we're talking about not shoving things under the rug. We're talking about actually attacking problems and sitting beside people with empathy. When someone comes to you and says, I'm really struggling. This is so hard. I don't know how I'm going to go on. You don't say, yeah, but we're positive here, so just keep on smiling, right? That's toxic positivity. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about real positivity where if you come to me, I'm going to sit beside you, and I'm going to listen, and I'm going to be empathetic, and then we're going to focus on how do we solve the problem, and how do we move forward together. But that's real positivity. So that's what we're talking about here today. So it all starts with culture. And the foundation has been set. Brady set the great foundation around what we're talking about here around culture. And when we talk about culture, we say these words. Culture is not one thing, it's everything. It's every interaction. As I watched you, as you came in, as I saw smiles, as I saw hugs, as I saw, can I help you with that? As I saw, oh, go ahead, in front of me. As I saw all of it, that's creating culture. It's set, the tone is set. What do we want to create? By the leader, but it's delivered by every single person in the organization. Every behavior and interaction that we do creates the culture. And Brady already said this out of John's work. I love the super fanning because it's so aligned. Culture, this collective set of expectations and beliefs that we have, culture drives those. And those expectations and beliefs drive behaviors. So those are the things that we do when we put our culture into action, those behaviors. And behaviors drive habits. So we are not what we do once, we are what we repeatedly do, right? So doing something once doesn't change a culture because culture work is hard, right? We have to do it over and over and over again. And those habits are what create the future. And really, if you think about your job as a leader, and again, everyone in this room is a leader, your most important job is to create the culture. That's where your success is going to come from. And I love how the mission is organized and the priority order, right? That made so much sense. Like, we're talking about people and patients first. We're talking about financials second. That's really, really powerful. And it really feeds so beautifully into our work. But really, culture is that living, breathing essence of what an organization thinks, values, believes, and does. And when we think about creating it, it all starts with what we think, value, and believe, but it gets even better with what we say, and we make it great by what we do. And that's by we know what we stand for, and then we show it. We do it through our behaviors. That's how we become great, and that's how we create a great culture. And it's about this idea of the roots and the fruits. And again, as I heard Brady speaking, I was like, oh, this is just so aligned with our work. So when you think about a tree, you see a tree here, right? The root system is culture. So the roots are people and process, all the things that we do to create our culture here. The fruit is the outcomes. And that's really what the world measures us on, right? So the world is measuring us on profitability and patient care metrics and days in the hospital and all the things that you measure, right? We're measuring things around our culture. We're measuring things around speed with IT. We're measuring all these outcomes. And here's the thing, most organizations spend their time focusing on the fruit. But here's what happens. If you spend all your time focusing on the fruit, which again is the outcomes, and none of your time focusing on the root system, which is your culture, then the tree dies. And you're not going to have that abundant supply of fruit that you want. By contrast, if you focus on the root, which I heard so loudly and clearly that's happening right here, and by the way, today is part of that. Taking everyone out of your offices for a half a day and not being in the work, but just being here developing yourself, that's developing the root. That's what leads to that abundant supply of fruit. So it all matters, and it helps us achieve what we're trying to achieve inside our cultures. And the next piece is vision. So you can't get where you're going without having a vision, right? And I was thinking about the mission, and as I thought about it, I thought, it's sort of a mission and a vision together when you think about what you're doing here at Community Healthcare. And the way we talk about vision in our work is through this idea of a telescope and a microscope. So your telescope is your big picture vision. So when I look out into the future, what will I have accomplished? Who's going to be there? What's it going to feel like? All the things. What will I have achieved when I get there as I look into my telescope? The microscope is, what am I actually willing to do to step toward that vision? Because no vision happens without action, right? Just like words on the wall, right? We have to do things to move our vision forward. And it's those repeatable actions that are what help us continue to move the vision forward. And it's so important to share it. And I love how, regardless of if you've been here less than a year or if you've been here more than 25 years, this meeting started with, we're going to share the mission. And we're going to introduce it to some who maybe have only heard it once. If they just joined the company, you heard it during your onboarding. But if you've been here a little longer, we're going to remind you what our mission is and where we're going, right? Because as a leader, we have to share it over and over and over again. It should be something that is embedded into people's DNA. It should be something that people can repeat back to you to the extent that, like, by the time they're repeating it back to you and you're sick of hearing it, you know they've got it, right? They know, everyone knows where you're going and how you're going to get there. And I want to come back to the mission. And I think we're in sync. Brady and I are in sync in what we were talking about. And the thing, gosh, we were talking about this earlier, and I love the idea that it says, our mission is and always will be all these things, right? It's a confident stance. And you know that you're not going to be zigzagging, and you don't know what to expect as a teammate. We're standing firm in this mission and this vision. So I want to do the second piece of interaction here during this talk today. And I want to really focus on, by the way, the fact that so many of you got up and shared your mission, when he put that question out there, I was like, okay, I'm waiting for this. Like, is anyone really going to stand up and go to that mic? That was so impressive that you all got up here and shared those things with each other. And the OT gal, where are you? What's your name again? Brittany. So Brittany said, when I was just an OT. By the way, nobody in this room is just anything. You are fully, awesomely, whoever you are, right? There's no just anywhere. And how about the gal who was last over here? Where are you? What's your name again? Vanessa. Oh my gosh, who doesn't want to work on Vanessa's team, right? I mean, she just started the whole thing with a mic drop, literally. But gosh, that energy and that passion for what she's doing and for what you guys are doing, that's what it's all about. So Brady set this up, and I want to give you a few minutes. For those of you who didn't stand up to the mic, which is the other 270 or so of you, I want to give you a couple minutes to think about how do you bring it to life, because this is about action. So you know what the mission is, but in your daily actions, and I want you to really talk about small actions. What are the small things I do each day to bring this mission to life with my patients and with my team? This is just going to be about 2 minutes, so just discuss amongst yourselves. You can discuss in your table groups. Go ahead. All right, I'm going to ask a couple people to come up to these mics again because I really like that. So I just want to get maybe 4 shares, super quick. How do you bring the mission to life? Jump up to the mic real quick. Let's hear it. Couple quick things. Who wants to jump up to the mic? Now I know you're capable of it, so look out. Who wants to oh, I see people pointing. Let's go. What's your name?
My name is Michelle.
All right, Michelle, how do you bring it to life?
I'm from Maslin family. I came from the banking, and I feel like my engagement with banking was welcoming them. And when they first come in the door, the minute I see them, my smile's there. Second is name. Hi, welcome. Hi, how are you? You're checking in. I think it makes them feel important when you remember their name. Makes them feel like somebody. So that's me. I love being in the front. If you guys, anybody knows me.
Hi! Do you want to come up here?
I would love to, but you got me beat.
No, but seriously, this is how simple this is. A smile. The power of your smile is huge. And when you smile at someone, they actually it's contagious, and they catch that smile from you. And the power of saying someone's name is huge. And when you think about culture creation, gosh, you just reminded me of a client that I worked with. I worked with a bunch of McDonald's operators across the US, and literally the biggest culture action that they were trying to take is to say, every time someone came in for their shift, "Hi, Joe. Thank you so much for coming in to work today." And at the end of the shift, "Bye, Joe. Thanks again for coming to work today." Like, that's it, right? It's just those simple things of a greeting, a positive greeting, and a thank you for being here, bookending the day with a name. So I love that. Who else? Anybody at the mics in the back? Let's do this quick. Anybody else want to share? Wow, I have no pull here. Okay, maybe I'll give you another. Okay, I see. Do you want to share?
So I'm Michelle Holmer, one of the physicians in Stowe. Some of you may know if I didn't go to medical school, I was going to be a teacher. And every day, my mission is to teach patients how to take care of themselves the best they can.
Love that. Awesome. Yeah, it's empowering people, right? Because you can't be there all the time. Sometimes we have to figure out how to do the things on our own, right? So thank you all for sharing. But just remember, it's those tiny actions. It's not just the mission on the wall. It's people on a mission, living into the values and putting those into action every single day. So as we talk about positive leadership, positive leaders lead with optimism, positivity, and belief. And I love this quote by Gandhi that says, "I will not let anyone walk through my mind with their dirty feet." And here's the thing. We're going to have obstacles. We're going to have negativity. We're going to have people coming at us all the time. But our positivity has to be greater than all the negativity. We have to be stronger and really put a force field around ourselves sometimes. And when you think about the obstacles that are going to happen, and by the way, they're inevitable in life. We all have obstacles on the way to whatever that vision is that we're trying to create. We all have obstacles. But positive leaders find a way forward. Over, around, any other way through, but they find a way forward. They don't stay stuck. That was pointing to some of the research. Positive leaders don't stay stuck in problems, but they find a way forward. And who in the room, if anyone, has heard the story of the positive dog? Anyone? Okay. Oh yeah, I see one in the back. Awesome. So here's the story of the positive dog. And you may have heard a version of this with wolves. But essentially the story is that we all have two dogs inside of us. One is positive and optimistic and hopeful and believes the best about the future. The other one is negative and sad and pessimistic and fearful. Which one grows? The one you feed. So we're going to talk about a few ways to feed the positive dog inside of you. And the foundation of all of this is this idea that if you don't have it, you can't share it. So we all want to have this optimism, positivity, and belief and be able to share it with our patients, with our children, with our spouses, with our friends. But if we're tired and drained and depleted and burned out, how are we going to do that? You've all heard it's impossible, right? You've all heard the expression, you can't pour from an empty cup. Put your oxygen mask on first. It's all the same thing, and the reason people keep saying it is because it's true. We have to find a way to charge our batteries and feed that positive dog so we can pour into others. And one of the ways is to feed ourselves through this formula, which I'm going to describe. Does anyone want to, I'm thinking no, but I'm going to give it a shot. Does anyone want to take a guess on what this formula stands for? Just shout it out. Yes, go ahead. Empathy plus positivity equals optimism. No, but great guess. I heard one over here. Go ahead. Oh, energy plus positivity equals oxygen. Right, that's so cool. I like that. But no. So here's what it stands for. The E stands for events. And really, the events are the things in our lives that are happening, and we cannot control those, right? We can't control the events that are happening to us. The P stands for perspective, and specifically, your positive perspective. And the O equals the outcome. So let's take an example. Like travel. Let's use travel. Complicated travel, flight delays, whatever. That's the E, okay? We've all how many have had a challenging travel situation in their life? Okay, most of us. So your flight is delayed. You're not going to get where you're going. So you have a choice, right? And I've had this happen many, many times. One particular time I was in Chicago. It was late on a Friday night. I was trying to get home, and they kept delaying the flight. And people were getting more and more angry. I was kind of hanging out with a few people at the gate, and we were just talking and making friends and just kind of making the best of the situation, right? We were trying to bring a positive perspective to the situation. Well, as the night went on, finally they said, your flight has been delayed until tomorrow morning, which for the record I think is a cancellation, but whatever. Tomorrow morning. So they said, head over to the customer service desk and we'll get you rebooked and we'll handle your hotels or whatever. So we go over to the customer service desk. There's about 8 bays where there should be people, and there's no people. And literally people's heads started detaching from their bodies. It was like, whoa, like crazy people, right? But here's the deal. We're not getting there. We're not going home tonight. Nobody is getting where they're going tonight. So we had a choice in that moment. I can yell and scream at the gate agent all night long, but it's not going to change the fact that I am not getting there. So myself and my new friends, we just decided to chill. And we decided to appreciate the fact that we were getting a really nice hotel room and a good breakfast the next morning, and we just went on our way. We took the shuttle, we did the thing, and whatever. And the outcome was, of course, we still didn't get there, but we weren't stressed. Those other people were so worked up, they could not handle it. They literally, it was unreal. So we get to make this choice every single day by controlling the variable, which is the P. And I love talking about perspective because it is so powerful inside our world. So if you look at this picture, and there's a quote that goes with this picture, and it says, how you see the world determines the world you see. And it's the truth. What do you see when you look at this picture first? Do you see, oh my gosh, blue skies ahead. It's going to be a great sunshiny day. Or do you immediately say, oh, The rain is coming. It's going to be a terrible day, right? What are you looking for? And in any situation, you can be tested to look for the good. And as I think about you as healthcare providers, you see people in hardship. You see people maybe not at their best. A few years ago, I went through a pretty big breast cancer thing in 2019. All the things, mastectomy, 5.5 months of chemo, 30 radiation treatments, all the things. And I stayed positive. I worked so hard to stay positive, and I had to learn how to practice what I preached through that situation. But I never said doom and gloom. I never said, why me? This is the worst thing ever. You know, I'm never going to make it, right? I worked on my mind. I trained my brain, and I looked for the good inside a really, really hard situation. And I want to say it out loud for all of you healthcare providers in the room. You were everything during that process. I mean, really, like the nurses and the doctors were so unbelievable, and I don't know how anybody gets through it without the kindness and the amazingness of healthcare providers like you. So I really want you to understand, like if you for a minute doubt how important you are, you're so important to people, especially when they're going through a really hard time. So another way to feed yourself is through the way you speak to yourself. And I want to set up this story about a gentleman named Dr. James Gills. And this is a man who ran 6 double Ironman triathlons. The last one, he was 59 years old. And by the way, an Ironman is a full marathon, a 112-mile bike ride, and a 2.4-mile swim, and then you do that all over again 24 hours later. He did it 6 times. And people would say, Dr. Gills, how do you do it? Like when every bone in your body is telling you why you can't finish the race, when your feet are bleeding and your knees are hurting and all the things. And what he said was, I talk to myself instead of listening to myself. I talk to myself instead of listening to myself. So instead of listening to all the negativity in our minds, all the reasons why we can't, why we're too slow, too short, too fat, too skinny, not smart enough, not good enough, all those things that we hear in our brains, instead of listening to that, we can speak truth to the lies. We can stop our brain in its tracks. When you hear those thoughts, stop it. Rewind, backspace, whatever you need to do, and replace it with something positive. My daughter is seriously so beautiful. She's 19 years old. She's beautiful, but she says to herself all the time, I'm so ugly. Oh, and as a parent, I'm like, oh my gosh, Caitlin, stop. You need to tell your brain to stop. And when you replace it, I don't want her to say, I'm the most beautiful girl in the world. I want her to say something she can believe. I want her to say something like, I'm the fastest cashier at the grocery store. I am a great friend. I am such a good listener. I don't really care what she says, as long as she doesn't say, I'm so ugly, and the same goes for you. I want you to stop your negative self-talk in its tracks and replace it with something more positive about yourself. Because you say things to yourself that if I asked you to turn to your teammate or to your spouse or to your child, you would never utter those words to them. So don't say them to yourself. Okay, another way to feed yourself is through gratitude. And there's research that shows that gratitude increases resilience. Anybody need a little resilience in their day-to-day life? Yeah. So I would encourage you to, just by a show of hands actually, how many in the room have a gratitude practice, which means you practice gratitude regularly? Okay, so I'm going to go with a good 25%. That's awesome. For the rest of you, I would encourage you to start some kind of a gratitude practice. You can do it in a journal, you can do it at the beginning of the day or the end of the day, and you can write down 3 or 5 or 10 things you're grateful for. You can just do it through prayer or meditation in stillness. You can do it in an app if you're a technology person. There's this awesome app I love called 3 Good Things, and it'll just prompt you, and you can just type in your 3 good things every day. You can do it in any way you want, but the point is to do it. And my favorite way really to start the day is to start the day and I just say, thank you for the breath in my lungs and the heart beating in my body. And on our worst day, we all have that. And it's a great place to start because when I start there, then it just flows. Thank you for my puppy. Thank you for the beautiful sunshine. Thank you for my neighborhood. Thank you for all the things, right? And so if you start there, you can let it quickly build. But gratitude is a really easy way to step out of stress and to step into feeling blessed and thankful. And Brady mentioned this earlier, so I want to share it again. When we think about our to-do lists, think about your to-do list instead of saying all the things you have to do. The hack is change your have-tos to get-tos. When you have a difficult patient, I get to deal with this difficult patient, but I'm going to figure it out. And I'm going to help him or her solve their problem. And I'm going to help them heal. And I'm going to coach them through it. And I'm going to sit beside them, whatever it is. But I get to work with these people. I get to come sit here today and meet new teammates because we mixed it all up, whatever it is, but change your have-tos to get-tos. And the last part of this section is about belief. And leadership is a transfer of belief. So I believe, and then I transfer and pour my belief right into you. Because what we believe determines how we act. And what our teams believe determines what they're going to accomplish. So we have to believe so much in the mission and in each other, and then pour that belief into each other until everyone can come along. Because you know what? Everyone is not sitting on the same belief scale all the time. You might be at different places, but I can pull you along with my belief until you get there, until you can join me. And there's this idea of faith versus fear. They both start with the letter F, and they're both in the future. But the difference between faith and fear is that faith believes in a positive future, fear believes in a negative future. So why, if it hasn't happened yet, why would you choose to believe in a negative future? And when you think about belief and pouring it into others, literally just saying the words, I believe in you, are so powerful for someone to hear that, especially when they don't believe in themselves yet. And lastly, don't underestimate the power of encouragement. How do you know if someone needs encouragement? They're breathing. We all need encouragement. The word encouragement literally means to put courage into another person. And the reason I have a picture of sticky notes here is because it doesn't have to be hard to encourage someone. You can put a sticky note on their monitor or at their workstation or in their office or wherever it is, on their planner. You can do it so simply. You can write a text. You can give a phone call. But it's not hard to encourage people. So be intentional about pouring that courage into the people around you. And that goes for your patients too. You can encourage them on their journey, right? All right, so we can't talk about positivity without also talking about negativity. So we're talking about feeding the positive, but we also have to weed the negative, right? It's just part of it. There's negativity everywhere. We've all experienced it, and we have to intentionally weed it out. And it all starts with a decision. So in our culture, we don't do negativity. So when you can say that confidently, that we don't do negativity here, then when someone is being negative, you can just point back to, remember we said in our culture, we decided we weren't going to do negativity here? So point back to the standard and the agreement that we aligned. We didn't want to do negativity here because it really drains us. And when we talk about negativity, there's two big sources. One of the big sources is complaining, and the other one is negative people that we call energy vampires. So, and I'll tell you what an energy vampire is in a minute if you don't already know. But let's start with complaining. Let me say this. If you're complaining, you're not leading. As a leader, your microphone is always on. So if you're standing in front of your people and you're saying, oh my gosh, I'm so excited, the mission, the vision, we're going here, we're excited for a great year, blah, blah, blah. And then I turn to my buddy over here and I'm like, oh, this is so stupid, right? I hate this stuff. Everyone knows that, right? So if you're complaining, you're not leading. Well, what do you do instead? Well, I mean, what if I just have to get it out? I have to vent, I have to do something, I have to get it out. So a couple things I want to say about complaining. There's this thing called the no complaining rule. And it was invented by a company called PPR, which is now, by the way, Medical Solutions. They're a healthcare staffing company. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of them. But when they were PPR, they invented this rule. And they were doing some culture work. And this is where it came out of, this culture work. And the rule goes like this. It has two parts. The first part is no mindless complaining. So mindless complaining looks like, oh, I'm so tired. I know, me too. Why do we have to sit in here so long? And why isn't, I need some Starbucks coffee. And isn't there anything, just all the things, right? So we're just piling onto each other. And by the time we go to start our shift and start interacting with patients, we're already drained, right? The mindless complaining serves no purpose, so we have to stop it. What can you do instead? You can call it out. Hey, this conversation is sucking the life out of me. Can we talk about something else, right? You can offer a but positive. Well, you know what, but at least it's a beautiful day, but at least we get a free lunch, but at least whatever. Like, you can just offer up any kind of a positive. You can also walk away to protect your own energy. If people are standing around complaining and you feel your energy just sucking from you, leave. Leave and don't let yourself be part of it. And then lastly, don't pile on. Just because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean you need to do it, right? I used to tell my kids that, especially in middle school. Like, just because they're being mean to somebody doesn't mean you need to pile on. Same goes for complaining. So no mindless complaining. The second part of the no complaining rule is where there is a legitimate complaint, which of course there is in life and business. Of course there are legitimate complaints. Where there's a legitimate complaint, you bring at least one, preferably two solutions. So now you can come on to someone and say, you know what, the 8-click thing, when I'm with patients, it's not working. The 8 clicks are not working. But I have a couple of ideas. These 3 clicks could be consolidated into 1 click, and I'm trying to talk about the 3-click thing okay. Hopefully you guys were picking up what I was putting down there, right? So, but I have an idea how we can make it 3 clicks. We could try this, and we could try this. And now the IT team gets to say, well, let me see what we can do about that. And let me tell you, I'm not under the illusion that when you give a solution for a thing, it's going to be like, oh my gosh, that is such a great idea. We're going to implement that company-wide next week. I know how business works. I've been a business person. But what it does is it starts a conversation toward innovation and growth and progress instead of staying stuck in the problem. And I want to say one quick thing about venting here, because people always ask me this. Well, what about venting? What if I just need to get it off my chest? So here's what I would say about venting. If you need to vent, I'm not encouraging it, but if someone literally just needs to let the steam out so they don't blow up on somebody, here's what you do. It's private. It's one-on-one. It's time-bound. So if you're about to talk for 30 minutes, it's 5 minutes. Whatever it's got a very strict time boundary. And there is an agreement to focus forward. So after 5, you can get it out for 5 minutes, and then we're going to focus forward after the 5 minutes. So that's my take on venting. So the next source of negativity is energy vampires. What is an energy vampire? It is someone who literally sucks the life out of the room. It could be sucking the life out of a table, out of a meeting room, out of a patient room, out of anywhere, a family dinner table. Someone is sucking the life out of the room. But here's the thing about energy vampires. We want to run from them because we're like, get me away. I don't want to get that energy, right? Our energy is contagious. I don't want to be around them. We want to run from them, but we have to work toward transformation. It's on us to work on transformation, because the biggest mistake leaders make and teams and people make is that they don't address the negativity inside their organizations. They allow it to breed and grow, and it's like a cancer. And just because you're like, well, I'm just going to let them sit over there and be how they are. Well, guess what? Your team is waiting for you to do something. When is someone going to do something about her or him, right? They want you to do something. And so as a leader, you have to address that behavior, because one person cannot make a team, but one person can break a team with their negativity. So how are you going to turn on the light for your energy vampires? The first thing you're going to do is not do nothing. You're going to do something. And it starts with a conversation. And it's showing that person that you care. Hey, I noticed in the meeting last week, when you slammed your pen on the table and crossed your arms, it got kind of stressful, and we couldn't really move the meeting forward. And I'm wondering, are you okay? Is something bothering you? What can I do? And so then you start to find out, okay, well, this person is just frustrated about a process, or they were frustrated because they didn't read their email and they had no clarity on a project, or whatever it is, right? Sometimes it's an easy solve, right? Sometimes it's something deeper. They're sick. They have a family member that's sick. They have some other hardship at home. Maybe it's a financial hardship. You don't know if you don't ask. So get curious with your energy vampires and start asking questions. And remember that it is on you to coach, train, and develop your people. So you still have to love them up. You still have to encourage them. You still have to train them and coach them and try to bring them up to the level of expectation and of the standard that you've set for them. So remember that the responsibility starts with you. And once you've done all the things, you've gotten curious, you've coached, trained, and developed, you've poured into them, you've encouraged them, you've loved on them, all the things, if that person is still sucking the life out of your team, you need to let them go. And I know it's hard, but once again, when you do that, what you're going to see is the rest of your team is going to rise up because they've been so stressed, and that it takes a toll on everyone when you have to come to work in that type of environment. So be sure you're addressing those energy vampires and that negative behavior inside your teams. And this is the other side of that resource that I'm going to send to you. Negativity can rob you of your competitive advantage, and you have it. So we don't want to rob you of your competitive advantage. We're going to address it. So now let's talk about great relationships and teams. Positive leaders create great relationships and teams. And how do they do that? We do that through what we call the 4 C's: communication, connection, commitment, and care. The first C is communication. And really, most relationships break down because of poor communication. And by the way, this goes for work and business. But communication builds trust. And then trust generates commitment. The more I trust you, the more I'm going to be committed to you and what we're doing here. Commitment fosters teamwork, and then teamwork is what delivers those results. When we talk about teamwork, we say no one creates success alone. We all need a team to be successful. Teamwork is what delivers those results, but it starts with communication. And when we're communicating, when there's a void in communication, negativity is going to fill it. People make up their own stories. So if I'm not saying anything, you're going to make up something. You know what? I heard they're closing that location. Oh, I heard they're opening 5 locations in another state. Now we're not going to get any attention, right? Whatever it is, you're going to make up all the things. So we as leaders, we have to fill the void with our positive communication. And even if you have to say the same thing over and over and over again, just say, hey team, same as last week, keep on keeping on, right? Say something, because the more of a gap there is in your communication, the more people start creating a rumor mill and making up their own stories. So fill the void with your own positive communication. And the second C is connection. And the whole reason we communicate is to connect. And as we're working our way around the 4 C's. So we communicate, we connect, and then we show our commitment. And commitment is all about service and sacrifice. It's about putting the we before the me. In my daily actions, I'm not looking to see what's going to make me look good. I'm going to do what's good for the collective. Because if I put my team ahead of myself, we're all going to grow together. And then lastly, care. And this is a quote from John that says, caring is the difference between average and greatness. And it's true. You think about just those little tiny interactions that you have as you go out into the world. And it's just the little extra details that make such a powerful difference. Whether it's a little thank you, whether it's a little chocolate on the pillow, where it's a little whatever. It's just a little something that people use to show that they care. So the 4 C's: communication, connection, commitment, and care. Positive leaders pursue excellence. Hey, guess what? We're not here to just have fun together. We're here to build something great together. We want to be great. And in that, we pursue excellence. And if you think about the people around you, one person in pursuit of excellence raises the standard for everyone around them. I set the bar high, everyone wants to join me and be better. I see some nodding, I love that, yeah. And when we talk about excellence, we also talk about love. And love is a key component of excellence. And if you don't love it, you're never going to be great at it. And as healthcare providers, I know you got to love it because you love the work, you love the people, and that's how it becomes great. That's how you become great. It's hard to become great if you don't love what you're doing. And when we talk about love at work, John talks about this idea of taking the old, hard-charging style of tough love, grinding, pushing, burning people out, right? That's gone. That old style of tough love is gone. Now what we talk about is love tough. And the reason we talk about it this way is because I've already done the work now. I built a relationship with you. I've worked on the 4 C's. We're in relationship. We have a strong connection. And because you know I love you, now I can hold you to a high standard. I can hold you to that standard of excellence, and I can push you because we're in relationship. And we have trust with each other. So love tough instead of tough love. And building on this is this idea of love and accountability. So if you look at this bridge, you see kind of an icon that represents love on one side and an icon that represents accountability on the other side. Some leaders are all accountability and no love. And what happens when you're all accountability and no love is that your people are tired, burned out, and disengaged. By contrast, if you're all love and no accountability, you're going to have great relationships, but not excellence. Sometimes this looks like great job, great job, great job, great job, great job, and never giving any real performance feedback. So someone can't really get better if you don't tell them anything. And that's because a lot of times we want people to like us. And I know I've personally done this. I want people to like me, so I'm not going to give them any real feedback, right? But in order to help people become great, we have to have a balance of both. So we have to say, I love you, I care about you, but I'm going to hold you to a high standard of excellence because I want you to grow and I want you to be great. So that's why we do it. We build a bridge between love and accountability. And I want you to think about this when it comes to building excellence. Positive leaders are demanding. I have high expectations, right? But not demeaning. We attack problems, but not people. And lastly, we call people up instead of calling them out. I'm going to call you up to greatness. I'm not going to call you out for where you're lacking. It's focusing on the positive. So as we get toward the close, it all comes back to where we started. Positive leaders lead with purpose and leave a legacy. And Brady said it perfectly. We don't get burned out because of what we do. We get burned out because we forget why we do it. And we have to come, in those times, we have to come back to our purpose. Why do we do it? And it can be your purpose here at Community Healthcare, or it can be your personal purpose that really gets you up in the morning. But just reminding yourself why you do what you do every day. And as we close, the power comes from what you do next, your actions. So you might be like, wow, this is really inspirational. I took some nuggets from this morning, from Brady or from me, I hope. But if you don't do anything with it, then it's just like, that was nice. You know, thanks so much for a great talk. And it doesn't go anywhere. So the power comes from action. So I want to do our last interaction of the day. And I'm asking you for 2 things. From the things that you've heard in the last, when did we start? Hour and 45 minutes-ish between us. From the things that you've heard, I want you to think about one thing first that you want to put into practice. One thing that you heard that you're like, you know what, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try that. And then I want you to think about one word as you close out the year, one word that will give you meaning and mission, passion and purpose to really finish the year strong. So one thing you're going to do in action, and then one word that is going to guide you and fuel you for the balance of this year. Take 3 minutes to do that. I'm going to ask for some shares. Hey, Jen, can you snap a couple couple pictures at the end? Do you mind snapping a couple pictures? Just as we close or whatever. Thank you. If you're willing to share your one action, just that, your one action, line up at one of the mics. There's 4 mic stands if you haven't seen them already. There's 4 mic stands. Just one action, super quick. I'm going to practice gratitude. I'm going to do whatever. Yes, okay. What's your name?
I'm Gabby.
All right, Gabby, what's your one thing?
Self-love, because a lot of us, we beat up on ourselves first. We don't, give ourselves as much credit as we should. So I choose self-love. If I put myself first, then it'll be easier for me to be more open to more things.
Awesome, thank you so much. All right, who else? Yes. Is there someone in the back? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm Kim. I'm going to try my best. No complaining. I'm going to be positive and try to lead others. into
Yes, awesome. Thank you, Kim. Love that. See, this is really easy. Who else? You can also shout it out, and I'll do my best to repeat it back. Yeah, come on.
First, this is too big, too tall for me, so I'm tiny. Well, I work with Dr. Clad, and I knew on this, but I have been in different places and different areas, including in my country, where for me, arrive here was a challenge because the barrier of my language and the impossibility to have some money to study or do better than what I could. I went from the little one trying to save every dog that I find in the street, taking home, getting them better. Well, as I continued growing up, I was looking for myself, looking what I really want in my heart. I went to study in lawyer in my country where I was kicking out because I couldn't arrive early every time. Money missed that. But then I didn't give up. I went to get a license in international tourism. I graduated there. But then even if I work as a protocol, I work with many other clients, people, I still was giving up everything, but I was not finding what I really wanted because I like to take care of people. I like to laugh with them. I make a lot of jokes. I try to, even when they arrive in the facility, sometimes they are down, sad, and I try to make them really high, happy. Sometimes their blood pressure come up, and I began to do everything they couldn't do and make them laugh. At the end, the hypnotist actually down because we make them laugh. For me, the possibility to think every day positive, because I have been going through many things worse. I could be maybe in drug. I have been a person I'm not take care for my family. I live here in this country alone, but I don't feel alone because I have everybody around me, and everybody is my family, my grandpa, my niece. So all my patients, for me, is a family, and I attend them as a family. That is my greatest positive heart. For me, love is everything.
All right, woo! I heard love, I heard treat patients like family, and I heard laugh. And all of that is contagious, right? So really, you get to decide what you do with this now, going forward. So you can choose to take a nugget or 2 or 5 and just do one thing at a time. So think about, I'm going to do this thing first. I'm going to share a little more love for myself or others. I'm going to practice gratitude. I'm going to do something. But I'm going to challenge you coming out of this to take some kind of action so you can go forth and be a positive leader yourself. Thank you so much for having me.
That's phenomenal. Thank you so much. It was wonderful. All right. That was amazing. Julie, thank you again so much.